Row is a natural and direct communicator with a compassionate and intuitive mind. He has always been passionate about helping and guiding others. Davy's journey into self-development began around 20 years ago, and since then, he has invested in various programs and completed numerous courses in conscious leadership and coaching. Davy, welcome back to the show. I'm excited to chat with you about plant medicine today.
Yeah, thanks, Maryanne. Yeah, great to be back. How you been?
I've been well, thank you. I've been very excited about this conversation because I have a lot of questions about it, and it's not something that I know very much about at all. So I'm looking forward to hearing all of your wisdom.
Yeah, no problem at all. And I can share, I guess, from my own experiences, obviously, and I've done a reasonable amount of plant medicines over the last, I guess, 6 to 8 years and that. And I can share from my own experience, but with regards to the actual, in-depth, what happens to the biology of your body, what occurs and what happens, I have very little knowing of, the in-depth version of what happens there, and the, I guess, the intricacies of the actual plant medicines and whatever, and how they're created and whatever. And, but I mean, I just know from my own experiences, the results I've had, and it's been profound, it's been like this massive, spiritual awakening that.
Yes. Well, luckily they're kind of not my questions. Questions are more around your experience. So I guess maybe to start with, what is plant medicine exactly?
Yeah, so with my knowledge of plant medicine it's an ancient, I guess it's an ancient method of healing, and there's a lot of different styles of plant medicine, and even like tobacco in itself is a plant medicine. That's an ancient. It was used, hundreds, thousands of years ago, and what have you, I guess. And it's the same with like some marijuana and stuff like that. Cacao. Cacao is a plant medicine. So it's just these ancient healing modalities to help people move through trauma and help people move through and start healing from past defining moments in their lives, and that, past traumatic situations and that, but there's quite a few of them. And of course, there's different versions of them from different places. Generally, they originated in South America, but again, even the indigenous here in Australia, they've been using plant medicines for years and years. The acacia tree, I think, is one of the most highly rated with DMT. So I think you can create your own sort of ayahuasca or sort of type of stuff, like hallucinogenic plant medicine from the acacia tree. And I guess the indigenous did that years ago, thousands of years ago, with regards when they're talking about, like the sky people and the Anunnakis, and, they're talking about like the serpents and going off to different worlds and what have you.
Sure. So why, I mean, is that the reason someone would engage with plant medicine? Because they're going through a bit of a tough time, or they're wanting to go into that deep discovery?
Yeah, I think my personal recommendation would be, do not ever do plant medicine unless you've done some coaching, some psychological conversations, and do you know what I mean? Like some real deep conversations and coaching work, or I guess like counseling or whatever, to understand what you're actually dealing with. You hear this over and over again where people are like, oh, just jumping in and doing plant medicines, and they haven't had any coaching, they haven't had any like real in-depth conversations to understand what they're dealing with. So therefore, they're expecting the silver bullet. Oh, I'm going to be cured, And I mean, it happens. It obviously happens, But I feel it's more like that's more about like winning the lottery. Yes, it does happen, but it's rarely that someone can not have any coaching, any sort of psychotherapy or whatever, and then just drop into plant medicines and suddenly that's it. They're cured forever. It's rare it happens, but it can happen.
Yes. I mean, from my understanding, you're delving into the shadow aspect within yourself. So if you haven't done any of that work before, I can imagine that that would be terrifying and probably re-traumatize the person who is engaging with the plant medicine, because there are different levels of trauma, and depending on what someone's been through, if they haven't delved into those aspects, to go straight into the ocean of it, which
Yeah,
is what I'm assuming plant medicine does, it it could probably have quite significant impacts in the wrong way.
yeah,
And so I think that that's a really important thing to note, that there's a level of care that has to happen. And I would hope that, that there would be questions from the practitioner and the facilitator, that they would ask you about your history before engaging, and that they just wouldn't take people willy-nilly that way.
no.
But one of the questions that I do have for you is, what other different types of plant medicine? I know you were saying it was acacia that you were saying.
Oh, that was the acacia tree. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what kinds of plant medicine are there,
So
and
you've got,
which ones have you tried?
yeah. So I've done me. The first plant medicine I ever tried was was probably like the top. What I would class as like the top of the pyramid, the top of the tree in a sense, is ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And I did that in Costa Rica, like in 2017, I think it was 18, 2000, late 17, 18, I think it was. And that was the first time I'd tried any type of plant medicine, any type of drugs in a sense, But I mean, you've got like ayahuasca, and there's all different blends of ayahuasca. So you'll have thousands of different types of ayahuasca from different places within South America and that.
Yeah.
And ayahuasca is basically, it's the vine, that's the ayahuasca vine. It's deep in the Amazon jungle, it's found, and because it's such a sacred, like ancient healing practice, like there's only certain members of like families and tribal members, whatever, are allowed to go out and pick it and select it. And it's like this ceremonial, spiritually, it's like spiritual ceremonially sort of like event in a sense, going out to cut the ayahuasca to bring it back, and they'll be singing and they'll be blessing it and praying as they're doing this work. And then when I did with Rhythmia, that's where I went in 2017, I think it was. They mixed that with like I think it was a plant called chicruna or something, chicruna plant, and it's different leaves that you put in, and that, so the ayahuasca, I think, is high in DMT, and the chicruna plant, the leaves that they like boil it in this massive big pot for like hours, like days, and they're just like simmering this stuff, the sludgy stuff in a sense, with water, and that it brings it down to this real thick, like viscous sort of like liquid, like real gooey sort of liquid. It's not very nice tasting, that. But this chicruna, like the leaves, they contain MAO, which is like it's like you have like an enzyme in your stomach that actually prevents the DMT from like hallucinogenics, that psychedelic sort of experience. It prevents that in your stomach, the enzymes. And this MAO is sort of like inhibitors that like stops that from doing that. So then you get the full effects of the vine. Do you know what I mean? So
Yes.
the so
Yeah.
the tuna sort of thing suppresses that, your enzymes in your stomach, so you can actually experience the psychedelic trip.
Yeah.
So that's through the ayahuasca. You've then got like psilocybin mushrooms. I've done a reasonable amount of psilocybin mushrooms. You've obviously like cacao and that. I've done cacao and that. Whatever. I've done like DMT, like in a pipe, like smoking DMT in a pipe, and a vaping in a pipe. I've done 5-MeO DMT, which is classed as like the God molecule. So you have like the spirit molecule, which is DMT, and then you have the 5-MeO DMT, which is classed as like the God molecule. And that's not so much psychedelic. That's more like, with my experience, was it was basically connecting to God, like that oneness.
Yeah.
You literally allow yourself, if you can surrender enough to it, you connect to that oneness to God. to the divine. It's like you realize you are God. It's an incredible experience. Like, it's like all of them have been profound, like absolutely incredible, you know.
Yeah, I mean, uh, so I guess one of my questions, because I really, other than drinking cacao,
Mhm.
which to me doesn't feel like, I know that obviously it comes from a plant, so it is plant medicine, of course, but and I use ceremonial cacao, but
Mhm.
I've never really felt drawn to or connected to do any plant medicine like that. And so and my association to it feels like I don't want to have that psychedelic kind of a trip. But how does someone determine what they need?
It's You have like an inner calling. So
Yeah,
it's a bit like what we're talking about before when you're on holiday.
yeah,
And it was like, yeah, it was beautiful, it was amazing, but there's like you've got work to do.
yeah,
Calling bringing you back to this.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Bringing you back to doing your work. It's like it's like a purpose. So it's like it's drawn you back into this sort of thing. So with regards to psychedelics or with regards to any plant medicines, it's you have like an internal calling to it. You know, it like it's hard to explain, but it just draws you in. It just brings you to. It's like a magnet
yeah,
in a sense. That's what I found. You know, personally, it's just like I mean, I was when the business when we got cheated out of that $1 million in 2016 and we had to close the business, and I was in this dark cycle in a sense, you know, like real dark place. And I went and did that men's course in America, which was like in California with my brother, and it was incredible. And I witnessed miracles then. It's the first time I'd ever done men's work like this. This was in 2016, and then when I came back to Perth, I did like coaching with a guy, 3 months of coaching with a guy that was running the course over there. But when I was in America, I was talking to the guys about plant medicines, and I'd heard of ayahuasca. I was aware of them, but not really. And I'd sort of heard of them in a sense, a bit like yourself in a sense. You'd heard of them, but you didn't. And the more I'd spoke to them, the more I was like drawn to it, like intrigued with it, you know. And
yeah,
as I was doing the coaching and started to heal from past traumas and obviously what happened with the loss of the money and the anger I had, and then I started to bring this forgiveness to the guys that cheated us. Then I did my own life coaching studies and that, you know, to become an intuitive master coach. And then it was like as I was on that journey, I spent about 10 months studying different styles of plant medicines, and I ended up uh, literally narrowing it down to rhythmia. And
yeah,
this is a place in Costa Rica, and I went to Costa Rica with my son, and I did and I booked in for, so they do it like in weekly blocks, and you have like 4 ceremonies in that week, and then 2 breathwork ceremonies. And I typical me, you know, I'm like 110% when I do something, you know, I'm like dedicated. So I booked 2 weeks. So I ended up doing like 8 ayahuasca ceremonies in like 11 days, and I'd never done drugs in my life. You know, I hadn't done marijuana, I hadn't done E's like MDMA, acid or out like that. You know, I haven't done any drugs in my life. You know, so it was like a bit strange, and my family thought I was absolutely nuts. You know, it was like it was why would you want to do drugs? And I'm like, well, it's not drugs, it's medicine, because I'd been studying it. You know, like
yeah,
it's ancient. You know, and it's like if you do get the calling for it, it's you've got to be. I'd suggest, well, it's my way of looking at it. You've got to be very respectful of it. You know, you've got to treat it with the utmost respect. You know, you prepare like a diet and that. You know, like about 2-3 months before I went, it was like reducing the red meat intake. You know, like reducing alcohol. You know, and like just preparing yourself, getting you emotionally ready for this. You know, so
yeah,
getting your emotional get your emotional state in a nice well-being way. You know, so so your intention is clear and you're ready to surrender, to drop in. You know, that was the that was what I was taught all the way. You know, and it's like I said, it was just incredible. It was this most profound spiritual awakening you could ever imagine. You know, it was
Well,
just
that sounds like a really smart, respectful way to approach it. I mean, studying it and spending time really thinking about what was going to be the right solution for you, and then letting your soul choose what was going to happen and where that was going to happen
yeah,
seems like a beautiful way to honor what your intuition and your soul is guiding you to.
yeah,
That to me makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
And I really love that you were saying that you're preparing not only your mind but your body as well
yeah,
for that experience. And a lot of the time with all the different tools that we have, there's I'm going to do this, but it's forced and it's pushing, and it's you're being severe to your own self because you're not giving yourself that respect to prepare and to have the best possible experience. You're just, throwing yourself into something really hard. And even with cacao, I had a Tess Martin, a beautiful human who teaches cacao and teaches about the ceremonies and all sorts of things. But we were talking a lot around the respect and the care that comes even with drinking cacao. And even when you're making it at home and being present with it and what it means, it's not just a cool thing to do. And she was talking about how some people were drinking it before they'd go out dancing and drinking and partying at the raves and stuff. And I was thinking, oh my God, like that to me, that's a really like abusive way, not just for the plant medicine but for yourself too. And so I think that's a really important point to make, is there needs to be consideration and care, not only for what you're going to experience, but for your body, so that your body doesn't go into further trauma. So you're not creating more mess to clean up either. And I think a lot of people associate, and truth be told, me too, that was what I was trying to say before. A lot of people associate plant medicine healing like ayahuasca with drugs, with taking MDMA or taking some acid and having that psychedelic trip. But that's not what it is. Even though there are components where perhaps some of the feelings are like that, it's not that. And one is in ceremony, and one is in low vibrational situations, and no respect and no self-care and no one watching you or monitoring your circumstances, and no one facilitating you through that process. Even though it is an individual experience, no one is there for you, really. Everyone is usually in that same situation. And I think it just, even in this conversation, it has changed my mindset. I still don't feel a longing for it, but I like that you were listening to the calling, and you were saying your soul will tell you when it's time. You will feel that, and that's how you'll know.
yeah. That's exactly it. I think the difference with like say plant medicines and what you'd class as drugs, like like social drugs and party drugs and whatever is, the party drugs are really getting you out of your body into that, like into the vibration. You're like escaping from here, and
Yeah.
you're going on you dance, which is like great, or you marijuana, you're getting like just out of it, out your head, whatever it is, like. And I've never had, I mean, I'm guessing like the heroin and these
Yeah.
really dark drugs and like ice and it's like, it's as if you're just escaping and getting out.
You're disconnecting from yourself.
Plant medicine is about coming in. That's the difference. So you've
Yep.
got drugs that gets you out,
Yep.
and you've got plant medicine that brings you in.
Yep.
And you're doing this internal work with plant medicines. This
Yep.
isn't about escaping. This is about dropping in and really going to the core of trauma, the core of the issue, the core of the love and the connection and the stability inside, and just really connecting that inside. That's what plant medicine does. That's my interpretation of plant medicine. It's about healing within, not escaping out.
Yes. Yes, and that makes sense from what we were saying earlier about having made sure that you've had some deep coaching or psychotherapy, or have done a lot of deep shadow work in preparation for this, because it means having to go in. So that makes sense as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, so important. So how how do you recommend someone choose an ethical and trained facilitator? Because obviously this is something sacred and it needs reverence and respect. So how would you recommend someone find a facilitator if they were interested in exploring this kind of thing? How would they begin?
Yeah, I think again, it's like the same as I did. And I mean, it's illegal in Australia. It's illegal in most countries in the world. This is the ridiculous thing. I mean, like 10 years ago or whatever it was, they started like realizing that sort of marijuana, or the, what's it called? The marijuana oil, the TBH.
I don't know what it's called, but I know what you
Yeah.
mean.
Anyway, whatever,
Yeah, the
take it
oil.
for stress,
Yeah.
the marijuana, anyway, whatever it's called, they take it for stress and they take it to help them deal with pain and what have you. And of course, like the governments around the world have realized that it's like, oh my God, this is like a good thing. This actually helps. And it's like, of course it does, but again, it's been abused over the years and years.
Yeah.
Like marijuana, kids smoking it and getting off their heads and getting out of the bodies, whatever. Obviously, like the oil and what have you is about bringing them in and just like healing from within.
Yeah.
You've got, they're now talking about psilocybin, like mushrooms. That's getting more and more popular now in the world. And eventually, you would hope in the next 5 years, 3 to 5 years, they're going to start, because they're treating people with psilocybin, treating people with MDMA. You've got a lot of like PTSD and soldiers coming back from war and what have you, that are having these incredible results. It is profound, the healing that comes from these plants, these natural plants and what have you,
Yeah.
and yet the government, because it kind of control it in a sense, and it kind make money out of it, doesn't want to know, and it just blackens it all with, oh, it's a drug and it's illegal. And it's, I think, even like psilocybin mushrooms, which is one of the most natural and most incredible teachers you would ever experience at a plant medicine. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like that's classed as, it's the same as like heroin or
Yeah.
cocaine or something. If you get caught with psilocybin mushrooms, and it's ridiculous, but it's typical government how they've shut everything down, and that because they can't control it, so they need to suppress everything, and they're also suppressing the actual awakening, the realization, the higher levels of consciousness for people to actually see what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
that's the underlying point, right? Because that's just one of the many things they have in place, because that it's not in their best interest for everyone to be awake and conscious. They want people to be asleep. They want people to be like sheep. So because it's easier to control and manipulate people in that space when they're aware and they're conscious, and because people are choosing, a lot of people, and there is momentum of people choosing to awaken and to take responsibility for their health and their healing and their awareness and their mind and soul, that they're having to do all of that on their own, and it's a bit of trial and error. Whereas if these agencies and departments spent time actually facilitating and doing the hard work and having this available, imagine what kind of a world we would live in where it was like that, where
this
they would say, hey, like, you've actually got some symptoms that are aligned with, say, cancer, for example, and this is causing all sorts of different things, but this is coming from a psychological place, not and it's manifesting in the physical form, which is what happens with most disease. It's dis-ease in the mind. And it's like, well, this is what we're going to, this is the path we're going to start you on to start going backwards to resolve this, instead of cutting you open and filling you with even more chemicals that are doing more damage than good. And we'll hope for the best. And imagine man, that's just one of like so many different examples that would be a game changer. Imagine for kids who have seen a great deal of trauma, and you facilitating them through a process where they can gently release those shadow aspects so they can grow into humans that don't have those issues. Imagine then.
Yeah, it's incredible. Honestly, there's so many possibilities to help people move forward in life, you know.
Yeah.
And I've always had this thought about like a camp, I remember years ago, like writing something down, and when I become this multi-millionaire, whatever, create Camp David, whatever it's called, Camp David in Perth.
The cool kind.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, and it was to create this place, like a facility where people go for healing.
Yeah.
And you've got coaches there, there's counselors there, there's somatic healing there, with regards to breath work and different modalities of healing and meditation and whatever. And it's like a retreat, and you go there for a period of time, a bit like rhythmia in a sense. And
Yep.
but it's like we know with breath work, you can lift your vibration, you can go to altered states of consciousness, which is exactly what you do with plant medicines. You literally go into higher levels of consciousness, like your higher realm in a sense. And in the intelligence and the wisdom which is available to you there in that state it's profound, because you got all the answers.
Of
Everyone,
course.
every one
Absolutely.
of us has all the answers
Yeah.
to everything that's happened to us in our lives. We've lived thousands of lives.
Yeah.
Got incredible intelligence and wisdom available to every one of us, but we don't know how to tap into it. We don't know how to connect to it.
Yeah.
The plant medicines obviously give you that gateway.
Yeah.
But if you're not prepared, and if you are going in there half-assed or without the right intention, or just like, I'm just going to give it a go.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're going to be, especially with ayahuasca.
Yeah.
She's classed as the grandmother.
Yeah.
When I've spoke to people, recommended this place in Costa Rica, and when I've spoke to people about like what was it like and what have you, and I says it's the more study I did on it and whatever, it was like she's classed as a grandmother, so she's loving and she's kind, but she's not going to put up with your shit.
Yeah.
Your grandkids come round and she's on, Granny's lovely, and there's this sweet and there's this and there's that, and she's looking after you. Get your feet off the table. I said, get your feet off the table. Not and it's just, she's lovely and she's kind, but she's not your mother.
Yeah.
Your mother, oh, come on, man, will you get the feet up? Like, will you, like trying to coerce you, and like pushing your boundaries with your mother. You didn't push your boundaries with your granny.
Yeah.
She's beautiful and she's like, but she's solid, she's not going to let you get away with it. And that's exactly what it's like in the journey. She's going to show you the way, but if she has to kick yours, she's going to kick yours.
Yeah.
She's going to show you what you need, not what you want. Sometimes you go in there with this intention, oh, I want this and I'd like that and blah, blah, with a cherry on top and etc., etc. And she's like, nah, I'm going to show you this now. I'm going to show you this. And she'll take you on a different path, But it's, it was incredible. It's incredible.
It's the crone energy that you're referring to. It's the crone. And whilst there is love, care, and protection, there's also no opportunity to fuck around.
No.
And if you do, you will receive some hard lessons as a result of that. And I love that energy. It's one of the things when I as a female, when I start thinking about getting older, it's one of the things that gives me respite, because that is that grandma energy. And I look forward to being more in that essence where I don't care about anything. I know, solidly every ounce of my being knows she's satisfied. She knows who she is. Yeah. She's created magic in the world already. Yeah. And now she's just this place of wisdom. Yeah. But there is no messing around. It is, there is nothing can move her from that place, and I love that reference. And I think there's a comfort in knowing that you know, as you journey like that, that's the energy and the archetype that you're working with. So you are protected and you are safe,
Yeah.
but also there's some work to do, and you have to follow her lead and
Yeah.
respect what is happening there, in order to receive the love and the care and
Yeah.
the healing and the nurturing. And I
Yeah.
think that's a really important point to make.
Yeah.
I like what you were saying about Camp David and that concept. There's a place in Bali, someone that I know has a retreat in Bali, and when you go there, they do a full assessment of you. So it's very much about, they're focused on health,
Yeah.
and so they have practitioners there who check your your vitamins and
Yeah.
they do an acupuncture assessment, iridology, a
Yeah.
lot of different things to assess where your health is, and
Yeah.
then they create a plan for you for the week or the 2 weeks that you're there. It's an individualized plan based on your health and
Yeah.
those aspects. And the vision that I was getting is you could have someone facilitate and do an initial assessment, so
Yeah.
you'd understand where the person's been and where they're at, but then you
Yeah.
would create specific tailored activities
Mhm.
that would help them have those breakthroughs and continue to tailor along the way. So in this retreat in Bali, they assess you every couple of days to see how you're tracking, and they continue to look at your eyes, your acupressure points, to see how your body is responding. So maybe it's a little longer in one activity, maybe they have to do it again before they can move on. But I like that approach, and I think that doesn't exist. I don't know any place like that exists.
There's a friend of mine. I spoke to a mate of mine years ago, and he had a few psychological issues, and he went into this facility. I think it was in Sydney. It was like 10, 15 grand a week or some, cost a fortune. He was there for a month or two, and just to deal with stuff, and when I was talking about me idea, this camp thing, whatever, I've always had this thought about Margaret River, because it's just a beautiful energy down south here, Bustle and Margaret River way. And when I was telling him about it, he says you could do it, but he says you'd need to have like a psychologist or psychiatrist at the head of it, because obviously the government then approves it and
Yeah.
it's acknowledged. And like, so I was thinking of like the same thing as what he'd went to, and
Yeah.
he went to, it was like one of these facilities where you go, alcohol and whatever, like AA or something, addictions, where obviously it's all dry, it's all clean space, but good food, and you've got like your yoga, you've got your meetings every day, you've got your breath work, you've got your exercise, you've got your this, you've got your that, but you've got your counseling, your one-on-one and your group sessions and whatever. And it's like, and I was thinking of the same thing, which was Rhythmia. When I went to Rhythmia, you had like a full assessment when you went in, like a medical assessment. The
Yep.
psych there asking you certain questions and whatever, to confirm that he thinks you're well enough and fit enough to do the plant medicine in a sense. You've got like a full medical team on staff. You've got a psychologist on staff. So they're all the time at Rhythmia. This is in Costa Rica.
Yep.
So that was the other reason why I chose that, being like new to drugs in a sense, with regards to like plant medicines. I'd never done drugs, so new to plant medicines. And it was like, yeah, I wanted that safety. I wanted that security. It was like a 4-star resort in a sense, 4 to 5 stars. So you had like a beautiful place. I didn't want to be lying and, some people do this, like, oh, I'm away to do ayahuasca in the jungle in the middle of nowhere, like literally spiders, tarantulas, and snakes and that. And you think, like, really? It's like, you've got enough shit to deal with, never mind worrying about, and like bloody getting bitten to bits and whatever, insects crawling all over you. I'm thinking, nah, not with me. And especially at my age where I'm at, I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I've done all that hard graft. I just want to take it easy now,
Yeah.
So it was, but I mean, even when I'm saying I just want to take it easy, there's a lot of the journey. It wasn't easy. It was hard to deal with in a sense. It's hard to come through because of the emotions that comes through. And what you're dealing with, deep-seated wounding and whatever. So
Yeah.
it's. But again, one of the two main things I would recommend. Well, three main things is obviously reverence, like you said before, like respect. intention is key. If you're not going in with the right intention, then you're just floating around, you know. It's like, what's the point of that? Intention is key. Bring it the intention all the time. And then the third thing would be the surrender. And this is, and the more I read about plant medicines, the more I read, you know, I've read about coaching and different things, is to allow yourself just to be open, just to surrender to what is. Because whatever it is, you know, you're not there to fight it anymore. You've been fighting all your life to try and control the reality that's out there, you know, as if you're God, as if everyone should suddenly step into line to suit your way of thinking, you know. And it's like, how's that going for you? It's exhausting, you know, it's killing me, you know. So the more we can surrender to what is and accept what is with honor and reverence and love, because it's teaching me all the time, you know. And when I dropped into the journeys, I was really from that place of like, just let it go, Davy, let it go, you know. And and I just went with it, you know. Yeah.
You can deepen into the shadow work when you're coming in from that place. And the transformation would be much more significant when you're approaching it like that. I think for people who've experienced deep trauma and wounding, that would have to be the approach. Would you say, like, that it would be too hard to do it any other way? It would be like what we were saying before, it'd probably be quite severe. The experience would be quite severe rather than gentle and nurturing.
Well, I believe everyone in the world, right, has trauma. I don't care how good your upbringing was, what experiences you've had in life, the situations in your life that you've been traumatized from. Now, you may not believe that. You may be like, no, everything's great for me. I've got no problems. And you're just living in this blinkered way. Literally, you're living like this. You know, you're just seeing life like this. You've got no idea what's occurring out there.
You
know, and the vast majority, I believe, of humanity is living like this. Because they're scared to look. Because when you look, it's fucking scary. You know, when we open up, when we have these awakenings, we suddenly realize, shit, you know, is this really what the world's about? Oh my God. And it's like, yeah, it's been like this all your life. You just haven't realized, you know? So when you have that, it takes courage and vulnerability and bravery to accept that is the way the reality is. That is the way the government is. The government aren't this beneficial, you know, like, you know, mother, father, family that's looking after you and that's there to serve you to your best interests. It's this massive corporate business, right to the elite, to the cabal of the world, in a sense, that is, you know, manipulating and screwing society for money and power and greed in all this darkness. And you're like, nay, way, it cannot be. And it's like, there it is, man. There it is. You can see it. But you can only see it when you choose to surrender to it and see it as it is. But when you do, there's the choice. You can either, and we've done it, you'll have done the same as me, you'll have went down the rabbit hole, you'll have got lost into this darkness and pain and suffering, and you start looking at pedophilia rings, you start looking at abuse in the cycles of trauma and chaos that these governments are creating, you know, under the pretense of like, yeah, we're just trying to deal with this over here and we're trying to help you here and we're trying to do this. And it's just like, oh my God. You know, and
lies,
then
just lies.
Yeah, it's lies, deceits, whatever. But that was the choice, and I remember going down this spiral like years ago with my awakening and a sense and the realization, and then I realized the power of choice, which I got 20 years ago when I did Landmark Forum, and it was like, you know, there's the darkness. I can choose the darkness and concentrate on that, and just feel that darkness and put my energy into that, which is what I'm doing by studying it and going down that. Or I can choose the light. And I choose the light. And over the last 5 to 6 years, since I've had this real deep dive into spirituality and into this awakening, I choose the light every day. Every day I choose the light. Every moment of my life, I choose the light. I sometimes drop down here and then. As soon as I become aware of it, boom, I choose the light. And that literally lifts my energy continuously. And I'm continuously growing and learning and evolving. But I'm choosing the light at every opportunity I can. Because that is the choice.
Yeah.
Because
It absolutely is. It is a
it is
choice.
there. But the more I do this, the more I'm lifting the collective consciousness and doing my bit, you know, doing the best I can with what I've got, which is what everyone's doing.
Yeah.
When you become consciously aware of it and you're still choosing the darkness and you're still fighting this, it's like, why would you put your energy into that? Show that, show the light. Just keep shining that light,
Yeah.
And that's what I choose in all the work I do now. And that's what I recommend to everyone I coach and in the groups I'd run and what have in the men's courses and that. It's like, yeah, that's your choice, guys. And we've all got trauma, we've all got darkness, but that is the option, to choose the light.
And to choose to look at yourself in its entirety as well, and choosing to look at the shadow aspects is kind of step one. Choosing to look at the truth. And I know there are a number of people close to me that choose to believe that there is no trauma, that everything, I mean, it wasn't always bells and whistles, but they wouldn't classify their stuff as trauma. And I found it's not until you start deep diving into the shadow work that you meet people and facilitators along the way who actually help you come to terms with the fact that that was a traumatic situation. It's not a label to put on it so that you can stay in the cycle of grief and wear the trauma like a badge. It's not for that, but it's actually to acknowledge to your nervous system that, hey, actually that was pretty fucked up what you went through. That's actually not a normal thing to have happened. Do you realize that behavior and that treatment, that's not normal? And it is even having someone validate that to you without you realizing is like, you don't know that that's coming, is confronting, and that takes time and healing. But when you start the shadow work, it does ultimately lead you down to the awareness and the awakening of the bigger picture, your piece of this world, what is happening, and how you are on the receiving end of governments and organizations and all sorts of different bits and pieces that are helping you behave in certain ways. It's a part of the conditioning, and so the shadow work is the deconditioning part. And you're right, there is a part in the shadow work where you have to go all the way down the well, and but it is a choice to come out of it, because then you're staying in the doom. And so you've replaced one trauma with an even bigger one, and one that you can't control directly. And that happened to me during COVID. So during COVID, when I spent 9 months in lockdown in Melbourne, I had a lot of time on my hands. And so friends who like-minded, who were appalled by what was happening with the control around COVID and the mandates and stuff, were sending me links. And that deep dive went so deep that I wanted to see all of the truth about everything, as much as I could take in. Not really an ideal time psychologically to do that, because I was already in quite the dark place. But I went down, and there was a day that I didn't sleep for 3 days because my body, my nervous system couldn't digest what I had just taken in. And I was trying to better understand how I could continue to live knowing what I had just learned and what that really meant, and what did it just like the whole world sort of flipped on its head. But I pulled myself back out of it slowly but surely with some momentum, because it was a choice every day. And it was a choice to think about the things that I could influence and the conversations that I could have. And then that's how my business started. And I spent a lot of time thinking about the kinds of relationships and the kinds of clients that I wanted to bring in. And that's how you transform it. But it would be very easy to stay in that space. And you can see people online on social media, they want to stay in that space. They're the people who are like spending a lot of time just talking about the existing problems. They're things that we already know, but I want to think about what can we do to transform it? How can we alchemize this in a way that moves us somewhere else? And that I think those scales are starting to get stronger and stronger, and I think there's momentum building, but there's a lot of that influence. And I think even that, when you're looking at shadow work and going into plant medicine, you have to really align yourself with that, because you don't want to carry that part in along with all your other stuff, because that part needs attention. You can't say that's that section over there, that stuff that I know about the government and the child sex trafficking, the pedophilia, the tunnels, the elite, the cabal, all of it. You can't take that and put that to the side and go into this deep dive with plant medicine as though they're two different things outside of you. They're not. It is a part, it's in your psyche. And so I would think that also needs to be something that you consider before deep diving.
Look, all of the darkness, it's the yin and yang, literally. It is yin and yang. It's the opposite, as above, so below. It is the opposite of the light, there's so much darkness out there. But if you choose to put your energy into that, all you are doing is building that darkness up. So trying to fight the darkness is building it up, because you're putting your energy into it. That's the way I look at it, right? And so to go to the opposite of the darkness and go to the light and create more light in the world, that's what I choose.
Yeah.
This is just my part. This is the way I think things. No, look, if I need to fight, I'll fight.
Yeah.
This is, if it gets down to it, I'll fight. But realistically, it's the light. The more energy you put into the light and the goodness, and to help people, to help yourself, to help others, and to bring this vibration up, the more the vibration and the energy, the collected consciousness will raise.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you're saying. It's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
By doing the work we're doing, we just keep lifting it like that,
Yeah.
But like to go into when you go into like my first, I'll tell you, my first experience like going into plant medicines. So it's like, I went to Rhythmia. It was ayahuasca. I'd never done anything like this before in my life. I was a bit nervous. I'd done a bit of coaching beforehand. I had me clear intentions. When you go to Rhythmia, they have these like three major intentions, And the first one is, for your first journey, is show me who I've become.
Yeah.
That's the first intention. And I remember going in this room, being a bit nervous, about 70, 80 people in this room, and ask you to wear white. It's like respectful, like a white top and whatever, tracksuit bottoms, whatever. It's beautiful climate, it's super comfortable. You've got a mattress, you've got a bucket, you've got a pillow, a blanket, in a like a toilet roll, And so you're in this room, and then they introduce themselves, the shaman and whatever, and this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, then we're going to start serving soon. And we did the rapé, they like snuff up the nose. I don't know if you've heard of that or you've done that, have you?
No.
But again, it's like this ancient plant medicine. It's like ground. It's like ground, like tobacco and different herbs and stuff, like really ground, very fine. It's like snuff, like what they used to take years ago, like and then 1800s, 1900s, whatever. But they put it in this little pipe, and they like blow it up, and it's just like straight up your nostril, and it's like, wow, it's like, and you're like, you get a hit, and then you're like, and then they go up the other nostril, boom, same again, and it just like, boom, blows your head off, like literally just like, clears the way, and you're like blowing your nose and getting rid of this brown shit out, whatever, you know. But it's just like, wow. But you're ready now. It's like really cleaned away any rubbish, any thoughts, any this. It's profound stuff, like, you know. So I did the RAPI in that every night before, and then basically stand the queue, go up. The shaman's there, and it was a big shot glass of this like greeny brown, sludgy liquid. You know, that's what it was. It's cold, you know, and you just get it, and you see your intention into it. You blow into it, you drink it, give it, you bless it, and then you go and have a sit down, you know. I went and sat down, and you can feel this stuff like running down inside, you know. It's like really thick, gooey stuff, you know. And you're like, some people are sick straight away. You can hear them vomiting, whatever, and this, that, and the other. And I'm like just sitting there about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and it was like, yeah, I'm fine. And it was right to have a lie down. So I laid down there, and I'm all a bit nervous. You know, I'd never done this before. I'd read all about it, whatever. Anyway, after about 30 minutes, 40, there's these little blue flashes. I had my eyes shut. It was in the dark. Beautiful music. These two like gorgeous women, they were like singing these beautiful songs, and they were like angels in there. It was incredible. And little flashes, and then suddenly the hairs on the back of my neck, and I thought, oh my, this is it, whatever, you know. And then from there, from the right hand side there, she just come in like that, and she went, "Welcome home, Davy." And I thought, bloody hell. I started to cry. And her voice was as clear as I'm talking to you now.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
And I started to cry, and I'm like, I'm home, you know. And she's like, of course you're home. We've been here. We've been watching you. And I'm just sobbing, and I'm just crying. The tears are rolling. And I'm like, yeah. And I says, I'm home. And she says, we expected you earlier. I says, yeah, I've had a bit on, you know. And she's like laughing, you know. And she's like, we know you have. We've been watching you, Davy. Put your here now. Just relax. And I just sobbed, and I sobbed, and I cried. And it was just, and it wasn't like sadness or trauma or pain, or I just sobbed because it was just like, oh my God, like I'm home, you know.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, man. It is the most incredible. And yeah, and then I could see like visions. It was like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. There was like children like vomiting in the streets, and there was like rivers of sick and like custard and chocolate, and it was just, and it was like, and I could hear people vomiting all over, and it was like, and I was going back to childhood when I was sick, and I had, you know, and I was lying in bed at school and with a bucket there and vomiting and reading the Dandy and the Beano and that, you know, and whatever, that were like English comics, you know, as a kid. But it was just like, but just feeling bad, and like, and it was like, do I need to be sick, you know? And it was like, you've vomited so much in your life. You've released so much in your life already. Like, you're fine. You don't need to be sick, because lots of people have been sick and vomiting, whatever.
Yeah.
And I could see, like, and it was weird. I could see my sisters, like younger sisters, like from years ago, being sick and whatever. And it was just these visions, and it was just incredible, you know. And it was, the way I describe it to people, it was like, I was 55 at the time. There was like, you had 55 books lined up like that. And she'd just come over like that, and she'd go to one, she'd just pull a page out like that and just release it. And it was just like a video or a picture or a sound or a smell. Like, my five senses were just, it was just incredible. And I was seeing these images and hearing these voices from childhood and stuff and teenage years and what have you. And she just went along, and she would just pick a page out from all these different areas of my life, all different ages, all the way through, you know. And it was just profound, you know. And it was, and I kept coming back to the intention, like, show me who I've become, you know. And it come through really clear. It was like, you're a teacher.
Yep.
And I'm like, a teacher? And then I'm like, what am I? And it was like, you're a teacher. And I'm like, I'm not a teacher. And not just laughing, and it was, you're a teacher. And not just laughing, and I'm thinking, a teacher. I was thinking of like it's in me altered state. Like, I was just thinking of like a teacher in a school, and I'm like, no, you've got us mixed up. I'm not a teacher, and I kept going back and forwards, and they were like insisting, "It's okay, Davy. It's all right. There's no, but you're asking the question. We're telling you you're a teacher." And it was like, I'm not a teacher. I kind of get this anyway. And it was like I was that sort of stuck on this with me consciousness, it was like I'm going to bring myself out of this trip. So it was like, how do I bring myself out? Because I'm going to check in with myself, and I couldn't. And it was like, you'll work it out.
Yeah.
She was always there. She's like, you'll work it out. It's as if she's going around the room. It's as if she's there. Her energy's there. This grandmother energy's there. And then you call her in, and it's like, yeah. What is it? It's like, yeah. You'll work it out. You'll be fine. You know. And then she's like she's not going to do it for you.
Yeah.
You have to do it yourself. She's
Yeah.
like,
It's your journey.
yeah, you'll work it out. Anyway, and then for some reason I just came back to the breath. And I remember like just like and like opening my eyes and like boom, I was like back in the room, and it was like, fuck, whoa, like this is unreal. And I was like back in like earth, like reality, and I was thinking, bloody hell, I can bring myself out. And it was like, right, what am I doing? And it was like, you're a teacher. And I'm like, a teacher? And I'm like, I'm not a teacher. And it's like, well, you're not calling yourself consciously, you're not calling yourself a teacher.
Yeah.
But the higher awareness is, because that's who you're asking, that's who you're
Yeah.
connected to. So you must be a teacher. And I'm like, right, all right, I must be a teacher, whatever. And I'm like, all right. So I lay back down, and I'm like, I want to drop back in. But now I'm like, how the hell have I dropped back in? Like, what the hell happened there? How do I've brought myself out. I can't get back in.
Yeah.
And it was like, and you can hear everyone in the room crying or sobbing or, whatever, vomiting, whatever, and noise and everything. And I'm like, bloody hell, how the hell did I get back in? And again, it was just instinctive. I put my hands on my head. And as I put my hands on my head like that, there's a movie with it's what's it called? The Lost Ark, the Lost Ark movie. What's it called? Indiana Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Indiana Jones or something, in the Lost Ark or something. And it was basically where at the end of the movie they put the Lost Ark in this big government building, whatever, big army building, and they put it in a box, and they put it on top of this shelf on the middle of nowhere, all dusty shelves and all these like all these old sacred stuff was all locked away or whatever. Anyway, they put it on this big old shelf with this forklift, drops it down, and the guy at the end, like, all right, Bill, that's it. Boom. And he shuts the lights off, and the lights just went boom, 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 just in dark. So the full place was in darkness. And that's what happened when I put my hands on my head. It just went boom, boom, boom. Just total darkness, quiet. Put my hands on my eyes, shut my eyes. On my mouth, there's no need to speak. And as I went down there with my hands, as my thumbs touched like that, like in my heart chakra, I just felt this energy, this like just, and it was like just opened up like that from my heart. And it was like as if my soul was literally just as soon as my thumbs touched like that. And I was back in. And I thought, wow, I can get in and out at any time I want now, into this world.
Yep.
So I dropped back in, and it was just unreal. And that night was just profound. And then my father died when I was 8, and I've obviously, I've had a lot of like father wounds and whatever, like, so I wanted to speak to him, and I'm like, can I speak to my dad? And anyway, he came, his voice, I couldn't see him, but his voice came right in front of us like that. And he was, yeah, I'm here, son, I'm here. And I was crying in that, and I'm like, what is this, Dad? What is this place? Like, what is it? Like, what am I? And he says, I shouldn't really be here, son. He says, I shouldn't really be showing you this. But he says, come, have a look at this. Have a look at this. And I like, it was as if I'm obviously just lying down, but I could see myself moving, but I couldn't see him. I could just hear his voice. And as I looked up like this, it was like as if I was looking underneath this like pine tree, like a huge big tree, not pine tree, but like a huge tree. And all the branches were moving. And there was 5 different levels to this tree. And every now and again, at a certain point, as they were moving, like in the wind and that, they would all align where there was a gap to the top, and you would, and I could see like little flashes of this golden white light, and it was like, like just like, oh my god, it's like divinity, it's just like, but there's like 5 levels, within this tree, whatever that represented, I don't know, but it was just like, wow, and then I came back and I'm saying to my dad, I says, can I see you? And he's like, you're not deep enough, son. He says, I shouldn't be here. He says, I shouldn't be here. He says, you're not deep enough. And I says, when can I see you? He says, we'll see you on Wednesday. He says, you'll see we're all on Wednesday, Dave. It's all right, son. Just relax. You're fine. You'll see we're all on Wednesday. And this was like the Monday night, and I was just like, wow, like what the hell? And that night finished, and of course I'd got my intention, in a sense, I'm a teacher, whatever that meant. And, which is obviously now I know, because I'm doing coaching and teaching and helping and facilitating and whatever, And it was just like, wow, and it was just, that was the first night of 8. And it was just incredible, just unbelievable.
And I mean, how incredible is that to receive a gift? And I love that the universe plays in that way, and I love that our souls and our higher selves play in that way too, because it's like we're answering you. Oh, we don't. We know that. All right. Well, it might not make sense to you now, but you'll figure it out. You will. And before we started our recording, I was saying that the cold weather to me at the moment feels annoying, but it is that it's that same feeling. It's like, oh, can't you just tell me what this is? But it's you having that breakthrough and that epiphany for yourself is where all the cellular structure and all your neural pathways change. It's different when someone tells you, even when it's your higher self telling, but when you have the oh my God, this is what it means. And all the light bulbs in your brain ignite, and all your cells ignite, and they activate it. It's like an unlocking of all the aspects of you. That's when the magic starts. And
well, you're aligning.
You're
to your higher levels of consciousness. There's wisdom and there's knowing that you cannot conceive on earth. But when you connect to that, when you raise your vibration through the plant medicines, because that's what you're doing, the rendering, and again, it's like I said, intention and surrender. When you have a clear intention and you surrender to what is, accept it all with honor and love and compassion, then you just rise up like that. You connect to this higher consciousness. And then you're in that space of wisdom, of knowing it all, in a sense of like, what is it you're dealing with? And a lot of the answers, like on earth, it's like a strange thing, because when I talk about like plant medicines, you're not on earth, you're in the astral plane. You literally have lifted your vibration to another plane. You're in that astral plane where the souls meet and can discuss stuff, so you are in that plane, that's the way I see it, but like, so on earth, it's like, what you're dealing with, I'm dealing with this, that, and the other, and it's like, you know what to do. It's not hard. You just need to apologize. You need to ask them, what do they mean by this? You need to get clarification. Then you can choose whether you want to stay in that energy or not, or take yourself away from that energy. You can get another job, you can get a promotion, you can do this, you can do that. You just have to choose it and work at it and do it, and get the results. It's like, it's not hard. We make it hard.
We do make it hard. We do.
We complicate everything.
Yeah.
because we're scared of being judged, we're scared of being seen, we're scared of not being seen. All of the fears of the shadows and all the darkness that we've been carrying since childhood, you know, all the trauma and stuff. It's like, so we're now living in this world where we're not really happy and content, you know, and
Yeah.
it's like, what the fuck, man? What are you doing? Just get on with it. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's easy for you to say. And it's like, well, it's not. I had to do. It's like, you know, we've had to do. Me and you have been through pain and trauma to come out the other side. Exactly what you're talking about there with regards to the COVID, not sleeping for 3 days. Psychologically, that would have knocked you out, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like at the end of the day, it's like, how did you get out of that pit? You know, that victim, that poor me, that there you are suffering in there of, oh my God, that's how the world is, and I don't want to live in this world. It's like this, well, there's part of you deep within that said, come on now, Maryanne, come on, step up. Right, go and get a
Yeah.
shower. Let's get your
Yeah.
teeth. Let's do this. Let's get something to eat. Let's do that. Because you're a human being. We are,
Yes.
we are infinite, incredible souls on earth living a human being life,
Yeah.
you know? And it can be tough, but we have the choice: go in the darkness or go in the light. Choose the light every time, and just slowly and surely bring yourself up. You know?
Yes.
Yeah,
And the support around you makes a difference as well. So, I had people they wouldn't leave me in the pit anyway. Oh, they would have dragged me out kicking and screaming.
yeah,
And wouldn't it's certainly not the first time. But
yeah,
the all of it, and again, it's allowing yourself to receive that support. So that becomes a choice too.
yeah,
And trusting that you can find your way back out. I I have loved this conversation. There are so many different components to this conversation that are important and has been really, for me, really educational, because I have had a lot of questions about plant medicine that have been answered today. And I've wanted to really know what happens, what's it like, what do you drink, who's there, are you in the jungle lying on the grass out there getting bitten and spiders all over you. That was the visual that I originally had around
yeah,
ayahuasca and those kinds of experiences. And you're right, like you, I wouldn't really want to do that.
oh,
But I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom, your experience with this. And I think a lot of other people would be feeling the same way, lots of questions about it. And really sharing your story about delving into the shadow and all of your advice. It's been really great to talk
yeah,
to you today.
yeah. Pleasure, mate. Yeah, I've loved it. You know, it's lovely to share. You know,
Yeah.
it's funny because when you have these experiences and these personal, profound experiences, it's just that's what it is. And then when you start talking to people about it and you share it, and they're like, "Oh wow," I mean, there's three people that's in the last couple of months from Perth of being one of the guys is actually in there now at Rhythmia at the moment. But there's another couple as well, you know. But there's three people on my recommendation went to Rhythmia and done ayahuasca there because I did it.
Yeah.
And I only did it because the guys in America had met, recommended it. You know, so suddenly we're back to this. The more we share that light, you know, the more we share the high vibration in a sense of what we believe in and where we're living our lives, the more people we can help and serve.
And you're teaching. And so
Yeah,
your answer is this. It's in your
yeah,
coaching, it's in the
yeah,
way that you share your knowledge and your wisdom. That
yeah,
is teaching.
yeah.
It already exists and probably had right from the beginning, but you just didn't realize that aspect about yourself.
No, no.
No.
That was the thing when I first got into coaching, like Angie, me missus, and the kids, and that you've been doing this all your life, Dad. And I'm like, no, I haven't. And
Yeah.
it was like, yes, you have. You've been coaching guys at work all of these years, man. 20 odd years you've been coaching us men.
Yeah.
And I'm like, have I? And it's like, yeah. But it's like, but because it wasn't from that professional sense of, oh, I'm a coach now, not
Yeah.
a business owner, it was like a totally different dynamic, you know. But I'm like, oh, wow. suppose I have, really, in a sense, you know.
You disown that part of yourself
Yeah,
and that aspect, and so many of us do. I mean, all of us have our unique gifts and our unique blueprint,
yeah.
and it's up to all of us to choose to explore and pull that out for the greater good, not just for ourselves but for everyone else as well. And that's how you change this world.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But one step at a time, innit?
yeah, so true. Thank you so much, Davy. I hope to speak to you again soon.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Mary. Appreciate it. Thanks, love.